Hi, and welcome to the Occupational Therapy Competencies Australia website. I'm Paul Cyprus, the web developer on the project here at the University of Newcastle, which the site was developed in collaboration with La Trobe University, James Cook University, the University of Western Sydney, and Charles Sturt University. It was supported in funding by the Office of Learning and Teaching and the Health and Education Training Institute. Now the site has a number of features that we've developed. The main things that we've developed here are the practice placement cycle, which is featured here on the homepage, the competency development levels, the occupational therapy practice process, and the OTCA, which is the evidencing matrix, which I will go through later. Initially, I'd like to look at the competency development levels. So the website is developed in compliance with the 2010 Australian Minimum Competency Standards for new graduate occupational therapists, and the competency development levels are developed in relation to those standards. So I'll just go into the web page here and we'll have a look. The three levels are emerging, consolidating, and competent to graduate. So at emerging competence, you might be looking at a first-year student. Consolidating can be anywhere between beginning your degree and the end, and competent is when you are obviously ready to graduate from the degree. Now the other feature of the website that I mentioned earlier was the occupational therapy practice process. This is divided into several steps. So we have request for service, information gathering, occupational assessment, identification of occupational issues, goal setting, intervention and evaluation. These are 7 steps that you can access through the left-hand side here, and each of these can be also used to access the resources which are in the practice resources menu here that you can access here, or you can go in via the occupational therapy practice process. So there's several videos in here that you can view, divided into chapters. There's a lot of documentation and examples of the sorts of forms that you need to work with, and there's a lot of audio examples as well, practice reasoning audio and things like that. So that's the crux of the website. Now the other things that we need to look at are evidencing. So here, the evidencing matrix, the OTCA, is central to the website. Now, OTCA stands for the Occupational Therapy Competency Evidencing Matrix, which is a student and practice educator tool for evidencing competence. So this is what the e-portfolio is built around that we use in the website, and it's basically a rubric that's used to allow you to upload evidence of your competency to your e-portfolio in compliance with standards, which I mentioned earlier, the 2010 standards, which are mapped across to these criteria in this matrix. As your matrix fills up, you will see the levels here also increase. So each of these are divided into levels that I talked to: emerging, consolidating, and competent to graduate. And as you fill in this matrix, you fill in these competencies as you go. So you'll be able to see these go more and more solid, these colours here on these arrows, as you progress through the site. Now I'm just going to go back to the home page and show you the practice placement cycle, which is what students would be looking at when using the site. So it divides the process of practice into 6 steps that I will now go through. So the first is to prepare for practice. So students start here, they go into this page, and the first thing they need to do is nominate their educator. So the students would click here first, and then you would choose your practice educator from the list here. So the practice educator that's supervising the student on placement is listed in the database, and the student is able to assign that educator to themselves. The next step in this process is to go So I'm just going to go back home up here, back to practice placement, prepare for practice, sorry. Second step is about website. This step allows you to find the nearest Wi-Fi locations to your practice area. So if you're, for example, if I was to be practicing in New Lambton, the closest area is GetNet Kiosk in New Lambton Heights. So the student is able to add their street address or nearby landmark. So if I'm working in Darwin, for example, I might just put Darwin and see what sort of areas there are available in Darwin. Looks like there's not a great deal. But anyway, this gives you, there we go, no, that's uploaded. So we have a number of places that the student can access internet if they're not able to at their site. Often sites don't have access, partly because simply because their equipment's out of date, or they might just not have Wi-Fi or easy access to the internet. So this gets around that and tries to give an alternative option. The third part is a letter of introduction to the educator. So in this section you introduce yourself to your educator. So you put in their name, and then you're able to, this obviously this cycle's been used before. This is a test student that I've logged in as. So these have all been added here. You can see that this person's filled it in here. So now as we continue, we can save and continue to the next part. In Prepare for Practice Part 2, the student is able to look at the occupational therapy practice process again and access the resources through here, which takes you back to the occupational therapy practice process diagram. And choose your step for this practice placement cycle is the next step, and this is where where you focus on which parts of the occupational therapy practice process, or which steps that you're going to focus on for the practice placement cycle. It will provide the support for or the basis for your whole practice. So for example, so if you felt that you were weak in information and gathering and occupational assessment, you might choose those two. So here you choose which level you want to focus on. So I might change that to consolidating and move on to the next step. Every thing that you put into this cycle is added to your e-portfolio, which I'll show you in a minute. Now, in this step, it shows you your learning contract. So this is what you just chose in those previous steps. So in the learning contract, this is the level that I chose to focus on, and these are the steps, the 2 and 3. And being a professional is always included in the learning contract because it's integral and central to practice, being a professional. So now I'll set my learning objectives and click to continue there. Now, in setting your learning objectives, this is where you create new learning objectives, what you want to achieve in your practice. So I'm just going to see, these are previous ones that have been created. I'll just remove these ones so that I can start fresh, see, and show you. So when you first start, you'll see an empty page here, and you can choose here which step you're focusing on for this objective. So these are based on what you chose in the previous step. So if you chose information gathering and occupational assessment like me, you'll have these two, and you'll also have being a professional included in there as well. So I'm just going to choose that, and that'll populate this, and I'll be able to choose which matrix statements I want to focus on for this objective. Okay. Now, when I've done that, down here you'd write your learning objective in this box down here. If you want to add more learning objectives, you can click the plus button down here, and it'll add further objectives that you can create. Now these will also be added to your learning contract. So I've already covered occupational assessment, so I might just remove that one and add information gathering, and then I can choose them from here again. So and add my other learning. Again, this will be saved to your e-portfolio and your learning contract. So this, as I click this, it will take you through to the next step, and the learning contract has been populated with the competency statements and the learning objectives. And when I continue to plan for your placement, this is where the planning occurs. So you've added the learning objectives. Now you just need to think about how you're going to complete them and how you're going to actually do what you've set in your goals. So here I've got the two ones that I've already added, and if I can add this by saying I will do this by attending team meetings and research relevant information sources. And for this one, this is a new one that I created. So information gathering. I will do this through interviewing my clients in detail and asking relevant questions when appropriate. Okay, so I'll just save and continue that. And again, this will get added to your learning contract. So you'll see now that this is already was here, that I will do this by attending team meetings, but I've added that one to it. So you'll see that you've got in the practice process column step here, the learning objective, company statements, the performance criteria for the 2010 practice standard, and the plan down the right hand side. At any stage you can also create a printable view of this contract, so you can click print and it will open up a printable view. Okay, so once you've done this, you continue on to the next step, resources to develop your competencies. So this is the step, and you'll see here that it shows you the occupational therapy practice process, and it highlights the areas that you're focusing on in orange, which is the consolidating level that I chose earlier on. Because I focused on consolidating, it'll highlight these in orange, and so these are the areas that have the resources that will help you to achieve the level consolidating in those different areas. So if I click on occupational assessment, it'll take me through to practice resources for occupational assessment here. So it's an alternate way to enter the to look at the information, and it just focuses you a little more on what you're looking at. So now, once you've had a look at these resources, you can go through to evidence your competencies, and this is where the outcome comes in, which I discussed earlier. The outcome's quite an advanced e-portfolio matrix tool, so you'll have to obviously read up on this a little bit, and here you can access and add evidence, both hard and observable evidence of your practice. Now, the difference between hard and observable evidence is that hard evidence is basically anything that you've scanned or written down and uploaded to this matrix. To upload to this matrix, you basically click here and it will give you this option here, and I'll go further into that further later. There's another video for students that outline how to self-assess using the outcome, and there's also a video on this same page that will tell you about how to tell educators about how to validate or verify the upload of evidence on the outcome. Now, to go back to my definition, hard evidence is anything that supports, that's a hard copy that you've scanned, that supports the self-assessment that you've completed. Observed evidence is anything that is observed by the educator that you've claimed and ticked on this matrix, and once the educator verifies that, it is deemed as valid, verified, observed evidence. Any hard evidence you use, you can use to support that. So we've got in this outcome, we've got the self-assessment and verification legend. So this is current. You've got yellow for current verified competencies, this sort of purpley colour for previously verified competencies, and this dark blue colour for self-assessed competencies awaiting verification. Now, what do these three things mean? Current verified competencies means that when you enter this through the ePortfolio, which I will show you after I've completed this, anything that's marked in yellow is current. So it's related to the current self-assessment that you've clicked on in the ePortfolio. And this will make more sense when we go to the next step, but I'll just explain this now too. Now, this purpley colour indicates previously verified competencies. So anything that's been verified before, any self-assessments that have been verified before, which you can see here, are marked in purple. And I can actually access that self-assessment by clicking here. I'm not going to do that now, but I can go through and actually can see that self-assessment directly, and I'll show you in a minute. It'll also highlight the yellow option. So the dark blue, which I don't see any here either, I'll see if there's some more here. There's one here. That's any competency statement that has not yet been verified. So if anything that hasn't yet been verified will be highlighted in dark blue. So the reason it's done this way is so that you can actually see through the entire wherever you enter this matrix, you'll be able to see what you've completed and what you haven't, and at what level. So if you can see here, the practice theme is listed on the left. The headings are the steps and levels are divided by this drop-down box, so you can jump to any step and any level. And up here too, so you can do that from either up here or from on this side, from this drop-down here. And it's also obviously divided into levels, so those three columns dividing the levels. And so you can see at any stage that you've been evidencing out, you can tell what you've completed and what you haven't, where you still need to improve, and or where you haven't yet evidenced or self-assessed what you've done on practice. So that's an overview of the outcome. And I'll continue on to the next step, which is the ePortfolio. So hopefully things will make a little more sense when we go in through here as well. So once you're in your ePortfolio, you can see where the what evidence you've both uploaded. Also, you can see which learning contracts that you've uploaded, and also the diary entries. Now, you've also got letters to educator and reflection and planning. These can also be included in there as well. So if I tick these, it'll show everything. So if I see reflection planning, you'll see here that now, so this is reflection and planning. You can hide these from lecturers and educators, or you can show them. So if you're hidden, the lecturer won't be able to show them. Sorry, practice educators can never see the reflection and planning or the diary entries. This is really just for lecturers. So you can turn it. You can turn off reflection, the hidden items, and show them to lecturers. As I said, practice educators can never see reflection and planning or diary entries because they're often used for assessment at university, and sometimes there might be sensitive information that you don't want to share with your practice educator in your reflection in a diary. So it's considered better to be able to hide these. So you can make your diary entries completely personal by having them hidden. Now, with the Occupational evidence, which I just spoke about, they appear here. So I'll just filter that on Occupational evidence, and I'll turn off the filtering on everything else. And you'll see here that these are all the evidence that we've uploaded recently. I didn't upload any evidence in the previous step because I want to leave that for the other video. So in this step, you'll see anything you've already uploaded. So here you'll see the Occupational evidence or supporting evidence, and this one's called Test Hard Evidence. Tells you what level and step that's gone in on into the ePortfolio. Clicking this will take you into the outcome, and it'll show you, which I'll do in a minute. And I used this is the comment that you have put on it when you've added this self-assessment, and this is the attached file. So if you've uploaded a PDF file, you can click on that and download it from that from that link. Now I'll go into the outcome first and I'll show you what it looks like. So here you can see that this test hard evidence, it's got the self-assessment details, the test, the submission time, the student number, the title, and this person hasn't identified a step and level. That can happen if you haven't actually filled in the outcome. So you can actually upload these without filling in the outcome, which is what you might want to do sometimes when you just want to upload something without actually providing it as a piece of evidence in the outcome. You may just want to store it. So again, you can look through this and it'll show you here. So there's nothing that's been ticked in here for this one because there's no yellow boxes. So if we go to step 1, we'll see if there's any places that. So there we go. This is one of the ones that's been. This is testing pending, so that's a different one again. So you see in this heading here, it'll tell you that testing pending, which is actually a different piece of self-assessment as waiting verification. Next one's, so I'll just go and see if there's any ones that have been ticked in this one. It looks like there haven't been any ticked. So we'll see here. Anything that has been ticked comes up in either blue or yellow. So yellow is when it's been verified, blue is when it's awaiting verification, and yellow only comes up when it's relevant to this self-assessment, the one that you've actually clicked on through the ePortfolio. Blue comes up for any other self-assessment, could be anywhere in the system or in the ePortfolio. Again, the reason this is done is so that you've got a cumulative record, so you can see the outcome and you'll see exactly where you need to complete what, which areas in your practice you still need to work on. Okay, I'm going to return home again. So just to focus you, we were just here. So we've gone through prepare for practice, set your learning objectives, resources to develop your competencies, self-assess and evidence your competencies, which was the outcome that we just looked at. Then we went into the ePortfolio, and from the ePortfolio we actually returned to the outcome. But from here, when you've completed anything in here, so I'll just talk a little bit more about this before I go on. So here you've got also, it tells you when this was verified. So there's two items that were recently verified. Anything verified by the practice educator in the last 30 days is displayed in this yellow colour. So once it gets older than 30 days, it disappears and it just shows up as all these other ones. If they haven't been verified, then they're just blank as well. And also, this is also listed in time order. So the most recent items are displayed at the top. So this is the most recent item here, and the oldest item is at the bottom. So once you've done the matrix, so now we go on to reflection and planning, and this is where you continue on to talk about how you completed your learning objectives, what you actually did, because you created some goals and you created then you developed a plan to meet those goals, and then you acted on those goals and evidenced them. So now this is actually time for you to actually say what you did and how you're going to improve for the next time you go through the practice placement. So you start by first what I did, what I've learned about myself, what I know now about myself as a professional, how have my strengths developed, and then using the answers above, reflect on these practice placements that would help you prepare for and apply what you've learned. So this really just for the next time you go on prac, these are the things that you need to think about for that prac. Once that's done, it'll save into your ePortfolio. So you write one reflection plan at the end of your practice placement cycle. If you wish to write additional reflections at any point during or after your placement, you'll need to use your diary. So once you've done this, you've saved and complete. You can't, every time you go back in here, it'll show what you previously put up. So and every time you type in here, it'll update that. So don't think that this is going to add a new reflection every time you fill it in. It fills in one reflection per practice cycle. So, and once, if you start, when you first start on the site, you'll have a practice cycle created for you automatically. You'll get a little pop-up box and it'll ask you to create one. If you want to create a new practice cycle, you always use the toolbar and click New Practice Cycle, Placement Cycle. Now, you can also manage your practice placement cycle, so you can delete old ones, or you can go back to old practice placement cycles that you've already completed via this menu, and you can delete them here as well. So, just to recap, this is you can only fill this in once, and once you go back and fill it in again, it updates your reflection. It doesn't duplicate or create a new reflection. So just so you're aware of that. If you want to, like I said, if you want to you still use a diary to do your own reflection after this, you can use your diary. And this is accessible obviously through this link here, or you can go up through the toolbar, and it's down the bottom of the toolbar. I'll show you quickly the diary as well while I'm in here. So I've had this is a testing one that I did. This will definitely work. I can update that. So I can say this is an updated diary entry and save it. And now that will be updated. I can also add a new one. This is similar to the objectives. I can add another one here. And I can just go, this is an example diary entry. So you can put in as many things in here as you like. So just go click, entry saved. Okay. And you can also print these. So if you include these, you can click include entry in print view. So printable view of diary, and it'll show you the entries and what date they were put in. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. If you want to see some really interesting videos, the cool stuff is all under here, under Practice Resources. So if you go to Practice Resources, you'll find that there's some very interesting videos at each step that you can look at. I strongly recommend these resources. They're much more interesting than this video, so go and have a look. And thanks again for watching, and I hope this has helped you.